Good evening and welcome to the Ysleta Independent School District's Board Canvass of Election Workshop, Regular and Public Facility Corporation, PFC, meeting of the Board of Trustees. The meeting of the Board of Trustees is a meeting of the board that the public is allowed to attend. As provided, Ysleta ISD Policy BED, we invite members of the public to make comments during the citizens' input portion at the start of the meeting, according to the instructions provided with the electronic posting notice of our meeting. Legally, the board may listen but may not enter into discussion on matters in citizens' input. We remind everyone that this is a board meeting often attended by students and ask that we conduct ourselves in a manner that best represents the values and traditions of the Ysleta Independent School District. This meeting of the Board of Trustees is called to order at 6 p.m. We have a quorum with Shane Haggerty, Charlie Bustillos, Mike Dwyer, Connie Woodruff, and myself, Cruz Ochoa. Trustee Soltero Ramirez is considered excused, and Catherine will be late. Vice President Bustillos, would you lead us in the pledges and a moment of silence?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Mr. Bustillos. Okay, our first action item will be to canvass the official elections returns of June 10th, 2023 general election runoff for District 6 trustee. Each of you has a copy of the final election results provided by the El Paso County Elections Administrator. These results are as follows. In District number 6, a runoff election was declared, and the results are: Debbie Torres received 151 votes, or 35.45%. Chris Hernandez received 275 votes, or 64.55%. Elected is Chris Hernandez. Is there any discussion? If no further discussion, may I have an electronic motion on the action item number 1? So there it is. Mr. Haggerty.
I move that we approve the election results and show Mr. Hernandez as our newest Ysleta representative. I don't see it. I got closed. I move to complete the canvassing, approve and certify the results for the June 10th, 2023 election runoff as provided by the El Paso County Elections Administrator, and read aloud and authorize the board president or superintendent to execute such other documents as necessary.
Thank you. We have a second by Ms. Woodruff. Please cast your electronic votes. Votes have been cast. The results are 5 in favor, none opposed. At this time, I invite Lucila Lucy Nájera, Judge for the Justice of the Peace, Precinct Number 5, to come to the podium to swear in our newly elected trustee. After the swear-in, we will take a short break to take pictures. Well, at this time, we'll swear in the elected board member of District 6, Ysleta, Mr. Chris Hernandez.
In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas,
In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas,
I, Chris Hernandez,
I, Chris Hernandez,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
and affirm
and affirm
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
execute the duties
execute the duties
of the office
of the office
of Ysleta ISD Board of Trustees,
of Ysleta Independent School District Board of Trustees,
District 6
District 6,
of the state of Texas,
the state of Texas,
and will do the best
and will do the best
of my ability
of my ability
preserve,
to preserve,
protect, and defend
the
the Constitution
Constitution
and laws
and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state,
and of the state,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
With me, I have the State of Texas Certification of Election. In the name and by the authority of the State of Texas, this is to certify that a general election held on June 10, 2023, Chris Hernandez was elected to serve a 4-year term in the office of trustee for Ysleta ISD District 6. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we're going to take a little break so he can have some more pictures, and then we'll resume here in about 5-10 minutes. Okay. That went well. It has been district practice to invite the newly elected trustees to say a few words if they wish to do so. Would you like to say a few words, sir?
Yes, President Ochoa, thank you very much for that invite. First and foremost, I have to thank my wife, Melody. In so many ways, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you. I've said I did my campaign all by myself, but that's not true. I had you. It really was just us. I remember the nights of you, helping me stuff envelopes and going out and knocking on doors with me and talking to voters and let them know about the election. And without your support, it'd be impossible. And of course, to my daughters, Alexandra, Annabella, and Jimena, you're the whole reason why I'm doing this. You're my inspiration, and it's my promise to you that I will be working very hard at this to be sure that you, your classmates, and every student in the Ysleta Independent School District is getting the best quality education possible. Because that's the whole reason why the district exists, is to give quality, top education to our children of our community. And to the Ysleta area community members, I'd like to thank all of you who opened your doors to me, answered my phone and didn't hang up, endured all the text messages I sent, and letting me know how you feel about what's happening in the district and what your concerns are. And I know a good portion of you have felt unheard in the Ysleta area, and I'm putting it on me to make sure that your concerns are heard, you are giving your input, and you're part of the process, because we're here to serve you, the community, and the teachers and the staff of the district. My commitment is also to you. I appreciate everything that you do for our children, and it is my responsibility to make sure that you're heard and that you have everything you need to be successful. Dr. Delatorre, I very much appreciate you welcoming me, all of your cabinet, your staff, Ms. Mathewson especially. You've been exceptional in helping me. I feel like I've been preparing for this for a month. It feels like it's been a month since I've got elected, but it's really been a week. And, because of you, I feel prepared. Also, Ms. Leeper, Mr. Solis, you also took the time to meet with me. I had some questions, and you were out of town, and you got to me so quickly. I mean, that just shows me the type of team that I'm joining, and I really appreciate all that. President Ochoa, thank you so much as well for welcoming me. You didn't have to, but you took the time to do it, and I very much appreciate it. And all my fellow colleagues, I know most of you have been here for a good while, and you've done tremendous work for the district, and I really admire all that you've done, and it is an honor to be part of it. And I'm looking forward to earning all of your respect and trust, because I know respect and trust isn't given, it's earned. And it's my commitment to you to earn that and to work together so that we can do great things for the district and the students of the district. And I thank you all. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. I think that was well said, and we welcome you here on the board. We're all going to work together, as we always have, to benefit the community, as you stated. So, again, welcome.
Thank you.
At this time, do we have citizens' input? Ms. Mathewson?
No, President Ochoa, we don't.
Okay, thank you. Dr. La Torre, do we have recognitions and introductions this evening?
Good evening, President Ochoa, members of the board, esteemed guests. We do. We've got a lot to celebrate tonight. I'd like to introduce you to Chief Human Capital Management Officer, Mrs. Bobby Russell Garcia, who will make the recognitions and introductions this evening.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. De La Torre. We have 7 recognitions for you this evening. At this time, we ask all trustees to please come to the front of the dais for the presentation. Audience members, please remain seated until the recognitions are complete. Thank you. Our first recognition honors a group of assistant principals, instructional coaches, and counselors who successfully completed our Aspiring Leadership Academy. The Academy develops leadership in order to improve organizational effectiveness and promote a culture of learning and engagement. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Academy participants from our elementary and international schools, beginning with Noel Astorga. Elizabeth Gonzalez. Gabriela Guzman Lopez. Miguel Muñoz. Claudia Núñez. Omar Olivas. Abisai Rodriguez. Susana Ruiz. Aubrey Salem. And Amber Villanueva. Let's hear it for our first group of Academy participants. And now, please welcome Academy participants from our secondary schools and central office. Janeth Barrera. Debbie Camarena. Michelle Garcia. Sergio Gonzalez. Jared Lucero. Stephanie Morales. Andrea Morse. Jesus Ortiz. May Reed. And Vanya Reyes Flood. Congratulations to all of our aspiring leaders. Our next recognition honors Bel Air High School junior Skyla Cruz, who won multiple gold and silver medals at regionals and qualified to compete at the Texas High School State Gymnastics Meet in April. At regionals, Skyla won a gold medal in uneven bars and 3 silver medals in the all-around, balance beam, and floor exercise events. And at the state championship meet, she placed 5th in all-around and uneven bars and 6th in the vault event. In addition, Highlander gymnastics coaches Edgar Castro and Kristen Schumacher were announced as the 2023 West Texas Regional Men's and Women's Coach of the Year by the Texas High School Gymnastic Coaches Association. Castro, who has taught and coached at Bel Air for 12 years, is now a 3-time Coach of the Year, while Schumacher, who has been teaching and coaching for 37 years, previously won Coach of the Year in 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our outstanding regional and state gymnast, Bel Air High School junior Skyla Cruz. Also, please welcome 2023 West Texas Regional Coaches of the Year, Edgar Castro and Kristen Schumacher. They are accompanied by Principal Jake Valtiera. Let's hear it again for the Highlanders. Our next recognition honors numerous Ysleta ISD students who not only took top honors at the annual El Paso History Day Tournament, but also the Texas History Day Tournament held at UT Austin in April. This year, these tournaments engaged hundreds of Texas students in conducting original research on historical topics of interest under the theme Frontiers in History. First, let's congratulate our El Paso History Day winner from Eastwood Middle School. This student won the Gorman Family Essay Contest for the Best Junior Division Paper. Please welcome Adriana Licon. She is accompanied by Principal Sarah Venegas. Let's hear it for the Raiders. Our next History Day winners come from the Young Women's Leadership Academy. Winning a National Maritime Award for Best Senior Division Group Project, please help me welcome Emily Carroll and Jenna Mendez. These students are accompanied by teacher Peter Bralick and Academy Dean Rogelio Ochoa. Let's hear it for the Transformers. Next, we have Valle Verde Early College High School students who won multiple awards at the Texas History Day Tournament. Winning the Outstanding Entry in Military History Award are Brianna Mercado and Victoria Mascoro. Winning second in the Senior Division Group website are Fernanda Balcorta and Mia Mendoza. Also winning second in the Senior Division individual exhibit is Stephanie Kuo. Capturing first in the Senior Division group performance are Patrick Holt, Sayuri Garcia, and Javier Molina. And winning first in the Senior Division individual documentary is Yadira Rojas. The students are accompanied by teacher Isabel Mora and principal Claudia Canava Flores. Congratulations to the Spartans. Our next recognition celebrates Ysleta ISD students who placed first at regionals or earned the highest ratings for their artwork as part of the statewide Visual Arts Scholastic event, which is hosted by the Texas Art Education Association. Let's begin with the Bel Air Learning Community. Please welcome regional first place winner from Bel Air Middle School, Alondra Rivera. Alondra is accompanied by teacher Alicia Villalobos and principal Gabriel Lopez. From the Young Women's Leadership Academy, please welcome first place winners Rebecca Ortega, Diana Rodriguez, and capturing a first at regionals and a superior rating at state is Danielle Legarda. They are accompanied by teacher Michaela Agnes and academic dean Rogelio Ochoa. From Bel Air High School, winning first at regionals is Brittany Aguilar. And earning both first place at regionals and a superior rating at state are Highlanders Arizbeth Aguilar, Araceli Calderon, Haley Lopez, and Charlize Santini. They are accompanied by Principal Jake Valtierra. Let's hear it for the Bel Air Learning Community. From the Del Valle Learning Community, please help me congratulate our first place regional winners from Del Valle High School, Daphne Carrillo and Cristina Puentes. They are accompanied by teacher Raul Monares and principal Ivan Cedillo. Let's hear it for the Conquistadores. Next, we have the Eastwood Learning Community. From Eastwood Middle School, please welcome first place regional winner, Zoe Crosby. Zoe is accompanied by teacher Fernando Alanis and principal Sarah Venegas. From Eastwood Knolls International School, let's hear it for first place regional winner, Sofia Munoz. Sofia is accompanied by teacher Amanda Narvaez and principal Rob Robledo. And from Eastwood High School, winning first place at regionals and earning a superior rating at state, please welcome Sofia Gonzalez and Sarah Uribe. And last but not least, winning a superior rating and a gold seal, the highest honor awarded at state, is Naineen Tan Chen. The students are accompanied by Principal Bonita Torres. Congratulations to the Eastwood Learning Community. Next, we have the Hanks Learning Community. Please welcome from Hanks Middle School, our first place regional winners, Eva Licon. And Kiara Piñon. They are accompanied by teacher Dolores Jinera and assistant principal Yolanda Melendez. Oh, and also please help me welcome Javier Aguinaga, also a teacher. Let's hear it for the Cavaliers. Now we have the Parkland Learning Community. Winning first place at regionals from Parkland Pre-Engineering Middle School is Braylene Medina. She is accompanied by her very own board member, Shane Haggerty. Congratulations to the novilleros. From the Riverside Learning Community, please help me congratulate our first place regional winner from Riverside Middle School, Jaylene Carvajal. Jaylene is accompanied by Principal Daniel Medina. Let's hear it for the Rebels. Next, we have the Ysleta Learning Community. Please welcome our regional first place winner from Ysleta Middle School, Yesenia Ochoa Murillo. Yesenia is accompanied by Principal Jose Perez. And from Ysleta High School, winning first place at regionals and earning a superior rating at state, please welcome Camila Galindo. Camila is accompanied by teacher Diana Franco and Principal Judy Calderon. Congratulations to the Ysleta Learning Community. Our next recognition honors state winners at the Technology Student Association competition held in April in Fort Worth. This STEM-based contest covers a variety of areas, including architecture, communications, robotics, and technology research. First, we have Del Valle Middle School, which saw its teams capture the top 2 spots in the State VEX IQ Challenge after collaborating on a robotics project. Please help me welcome our second place winners, Serenity Gonzalez, Delilah Renteria, and Daniela Renteria. And bringing home a first place medal in the VEX IQ Challenge are students Alexander Alcaraz, Axel Alcaraz, Marcelino Morales, and Adam Rodriguez. They are accompanied by teachers Jose Aguilera and Alejandro Anoveros. Let's hear it for the Conquistadores. Also earning multiple medals at the state TSA competition was Parkland Pre-Engineering Middle School. Please welcome second place Challenging Technology Issues winner, Adam Pacheco. Second place Inventions and Innovations winner, Lexi Peña. First place, digital photography winner, Jaden Arista. Capturing first place in career prep, First in biotechnology design and second in challenging technology issues is Aurora Shindo. And winning first in biotechnology design and second in inventions and innovations category are Isabella Beltran and Riker Johnson. These students are accompanied by STEM teacher Chris Whitman. Congratulations to the novilleros. Next, we have our TSA winners from Bel Air High School. Please welcome first place fashion design team winner, Norma Gay. Silver medalist in promotional design, Mariela Torres. And winning gold on the fashion design team in both a gold and silver medal in the Hot Rod CO2 car contest is Gabriela Urbina. The students are accompanied by teachers Steve Salcido and Rita Sanchez, along with Principal Jake Valtiera. Let's hear it for the Highlanders. Our next winners are on a team from Parkland High School that won first place in animatronics. Let's hear it for students David Patterson and Zachary Winningham. The team is accompanied by teacher Maura Moreno and Principal Javier Salgado. Yay. Congratulations to the Matadors. Our next recognition honors an Eastwood High School student who won first place in impromptu speaking at this year's Future Business Leaders of America state competition. Impromptu speaking tests the ability to think quickly and effectively. Participants are given a random topic and have only 10 minutes to brainstorm and structure a speech. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our FBLA gold medalist, Eastwood High School student, Sebastian Perez Navarro. He is accompanied by FBLA sponsor Jorge Villa and Principal Bonita Torres. Congratulations to Sebastian. Our final recognition tonight celebrates a Hanks High School student who is headed to nationals in July after winning first place in Fashion Design 2 at both the regional and state competitions of the Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America. As part of the competition, students must apply their fashion skills to design and market clothing styles, then create a portfolio and sample garment and give an oral presentation to the judges. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me congratulate our regional and state fashion design gold medalist, Hanks High School student, James McCormick. James is accompanied by his advisor, Denise Zapian, and Principal Ruben Cadena. Congratulations to James. This concludes our recognitions for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. At this time, we will proceed with a board workshop. We will now discuss agenda items as listed in the posted notice of the Ysleta ISD Board of Trustees meeting for June 19th, 2023, and related recommended motions with the superintendent and executive cabinet, and receive responses to questions and/or requests for additional information through the superintendent in preparation for deliberation and action on said items at the June 19, 2023 board meeting. Please stop me if you have any questions or wish to pull an item. Consent items, number 1. Minutes, Board of Trustees, Canvass of Election Workshop and Regular Meeting, May 10th, 2023, 6 p.m. Number 2, Board of Trustees, Special Board Meeting and Canvass Election, May 16, 2023, 6 p.m. Number 3, Monthly Financial Updates as of April 2023. Number 4, Budget Amendments requiring Board approval. Number 5.
Mr. President, can we just go over this? Can you just give us
Yes,
a
sir.
quick update on this?
So, as you know, a budget is a plan, and each year, as we approach the end of the fiscal year, we go back in and look at the plan and realign any of the functions to reflect what we actually spent. So if the entire budget is 450, we're not going to exceed that, but between functions, so maybe between transportation and operations, we have shifted monies around. Now all we're doing is realigning it to reflect what we're actually spending on those actual expenditures versus the budget that was adopted. We do this every year. Do you want to look at each individual one, or does that?
Just wanted to go over it. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. Consent item number 5, authorized use of investment brokers. Number 6, annual investment training resolution. Number 7, annual investment policy review resolution. Number 8, resolution designating person responsible for no new revenue tax rate calculations. Number 9, ratification of YISD contract number 202-30216 with the University of Texas at Austin. Number 10, approval of YISD contract number 202-30208 with Region 19 Education Service Center. Okay, at this time, we will go to the policy action items. Number 1, revision to BDAA local officers and officials, duties and requirements of board officers.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir?
I'd like to pull number 1 and number 4.
Say what?
I'd like to pull number 1 and number 4 first.
Okay. Pull what, number 1? Okay, let's note it. Policy item number 2, revision to policy CCGB ad valorem taxes, economic development. Number 3, revision to policy CFB local accounting inventories. Number 4, revision to policy CO local food and nutrition management.
Mr. Ochoa, I have a question about this one.
Okay.
When I was looking at this one, it talks about giving students 3 meals after their balance is gone, And so I was wondering, number 1, what happens to the kid that goes for 4 on this policy?
Thank you,
Is
Ms.
there
Woodruff.
anybody
Great
can-
question. We never have a student go without food.
Okay.
So if they exhaust the 3, it's numerical. They'll be given food. Oftentimes, it's a sandwich with milk and fruit, or they'll allow them to continue creating a debit.
Because also, I was thinking that many of our campuses are set up to where that they are everybody's on free lunch. And so this doesn't come in play at all there, right?
Absolutely not. There's very few campuses that we have right now that are not free lunch. And so for those campuses, this policy is irrelevant. It's for the campuses in which there is full pay or reduced lunch costs.
But just one more time, just making sure those kids will be fed.
I 100% assure you that no
All right.
child will ever go unfed, ever.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Mr. President, is the sandwich still 2 pieces of bread and a slice of that plastic cheese?
No, sir, absolutely not. I've met with Mr. Crawford on multiple occasions, and we've discussed different options that are not only nutritious, but are wanting to be eaten by students, whether that be a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with fruit and milk, or a ham and cheese sandwich with dressings on it as well. It'll never be just a piece of bread with meat in it.
Thank you.
Also, when I meet with cafeteria managers at the beginning of the year, I'll make sure I reiterate that.
Thank you.
My pleasure, sir.
Let's see, policy number 5, revision of COA local food and nutrition management procurement. Number 6, revision of CRF local insurance and annuities management unemployment insurance. Number 7, policy CVA local facilities construction competitive bidding. Number 8, revision to policy CVB local facilities construction competitive sealed proposals. Number 9, revision to policy CLB, local buildings, grounds, and equipment, management and maintenance. Okay. We do have a pool policy action item number 1, which is,
Mr. Ochoa,
yes.
I would like to say something about this one. Number 1, action item number 1.
Okay.
So,
Can I finish the?
oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I thought you read it.
No. Revisions to BDAA local officers and officials' duties and requirements of board officers. That has been pulled. Okay, action item number 1, approval solicitation BP 1916, Bel Air High School baseball field renovations. Okay, Ms. Wood.
Sorry, I got ahead of you. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows how important it is for us to get this done tonight, because this baseball team has been out of a field now through the construction of the gym, and then now through the construction of the whole building. And it's just really, really important that we get this moving, because we can't have these kids doing without for another season. So I'm just hoping that we can move this along and get this done for them so that they can have their field. Of course, we want it to be in quality too, so we don't want it to be so fast that we don't get the quality there, but I'm really hoping that we can move this along. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Woodruff. Action item number 2, YSD contract number 2.
President Ochoa.
I'm sorry, President Ochoa.
I'm sorry.
I would also like to comment and echo Ms. Woodruff's comments. I am a high school baseball umpire. I did several games for Bel Air this past season. Great coach, great group of kids, and I know what this is going to mean to them. It means everything to have your own home field and not have to be playing your home games, sometimes at your opponent's field. I can't imagine that's going to feel as good as having their own field. So, Ms. Woodruff, I completely echo what you just said.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Number 2, YSD contract number 202-30205, interlocal agreement with El Paso County Juvenile Board of Juvenile Justice Alternative Education Program. And we proceed to election officers for the Board of Trustees. Then we go on to the action items, elect officers of the YSD Public Facility Corporation, PFC Board of Directors. Okay, we did have one item that was pulled, but is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items listed on the agenda as recommended?
President Ochoa,
Yes.
we're at the public hearing now. I'm sorry. Page 4.
Page 4. Oh, page 4. Okay, thank you. Okay, as a taxing entity, the district is required to provide an annual forum for the public to provide input for the district's proposed budget. This is a hearing for that purpose. The Board of Trustees appreciates your attendance and welcomes your input during public hearing. Please observe the following rules. Individuals wishing to speak are limited to 3 minutes. 3 minutes. After the presentation, we will take public comment on the proposed budget for 2023. Dr. La Torre, do you have a presentation on the proposed budget for 2023?
Yes, President Ochoa, our Finance and Operation Officer, Ms. Lindley Leeper, will lead the proposed budget 23-24 presentation.
Good evening, President Ochoa, members of the board, and Dr. De La Torre. This evening, I have somewhat a combined presentation. It's looking at both our budget development process and what we've come up with so far, along with what we hope will be an acceptable compensation plan, and then provide you with an opportunity to perhaps adopt the budget this evening after the public hearing. As you know, any entity adopts or approves strategic goals, and they set objectives to reflect their progress towards those goals. This board adopted 3 primary goals aligned with our future, which reflects our students and what we expect them to achieve academically. It involves our people, not only our employees, but also our families who interact with the district. And then it looks at our investment. Goal 3 talks about prudent financial management along with fidelity in the implementation of the bond program. This evening, I'm going to take a little bit of time to walk some of our newer members through this budget, so I may be a little slower than you would like, but I would also ask you to hold your questions until the end because I may very well answer them as we go through this sort of lengthy presentation. The first thing we want to do is look at goal number 1. So our objective is to allocate appropriate resources to ensure students are continuously supported to improve their mastery of the content needed to be successful and to graduate ready for college, military, or a career of their choice. You can see here that there are 14 measurable targets. In 2019, we set baselines, or we achieved certain baselines, and we captured those, and then we set 2025 targets that we want to achieve. These measures look at whether or not campuses are rated at C or better. It looks at all campuses in the district. It looks at emerging bilingual students. It looks at SPED students, and it measures a variety of things for each of these groups of students. To forward that end, we have what was released by the federal government during the pandemic and followed by up to 18 months of additional funding. This is important here because, as you know from the COVID pandemic, our students were at home, and many of them sustained a learning loss that the federal government wanted to ensure we recovered from. So we received an allocation called ESSER 1, then ESSER 2, and ESSER 3. These funds totaled $216 million. They are one-time funds. They do go away. We are expected to spend them fully by September of 2024. ESSER number 1 for $14 million was already spent. We achieved our goal and met that objective by September 30th of 22. ESSER 2 has been fully spent or will be shortly by the end of this fiscal year, and ESSER 3 is completely obligated and largely spent. That balance must be expended by September 30th, 2024, or it's deobligated. Essentially, we lose it. ESSER 3 is the only one that had a learning loss component, and the federal government required that we spend 20% to remediate learning loss. And so that's roughly $28 million had to go to recover and help those students get over the learning loss they experienced from COVID. The reason this is particularly important, or these funds are particularly important, whenever the federal government makes money available to us like this in an allotment, as I mentioned, it goes away. They projected from day one, you will have a fiscal cliff if you aren't prepared for the end of these funds. So districts around us and others throughout the state said, well, in order to recover from a learning loss, we better implement new programs. We better hire a lot of new people. And they've done that. Well, what happens at the end of the 3-year period is they can't sustain those programs in their regular operating fund. They can't pay for those employees in their regular operating fund. In order to make sure we never experienced that fiscal cliff, we, for the first time ever, were allowed to supplant a federal grant. So we said, look, we've already done our work. We are an A-rated district. We are achieving our metrics in the area of academics and college, career, military readiness. So instead of bringing in a lot of new programs and hiring lots of new people, we did hire some. We hired past tutors. We hired other people like that to help us get past the learning loss. But we didn't bring in hundreds of new people that we will be responsible for sustaining afterwards. However, I want you to know that we paid for student teachers and stipends and things like that out of ESSER 3. Those monies must cease unless you intend to absorb them in the operating fund, which frankly is not going to be possible. So I want you also to be able to see the activities that were eligible to be funded under each tranche of ESSER money. You can see that ESSER 1 was primarily focused on remediating the effects of COVID physically. So in the first column, you can see that training and professional development for staff of the local education agency on sanitation and minimizing the spread of infectious diseases was an eligible activity under ESSER 1. It was not under ESSER 2 and 3. So ESSER 1 was primarily about the effects of the physical damage caused by COVID, while ESSER 2 and 3 focused more on the educational and academic aspects. I mentioned to you that Goal 1 is academic achievement, and I want you to see that 66.75% of our entire general fund operating budget, our regular, if you will, checking account, funds instruction at the campus level. So this is the largest component of our budget, goes to instruction and academic achievement for Goal 1 at the campus level. Payroll and benefits make up 85% of our budget. That's the people. That's the benefits, that's the compensation package. Contracted services is 7.45% of our budget. That's utilities. That's the primary driver of that field. General supplies at 4% is usually just our fuel budget. Miscellaneous, that includes graduation and the minimal amount of travel that we do. So for 1.9%, that's all we spend on graduation ceremonies, Don Haskins rental, and travel. It's not... There's not much there to deal with if you're looking to cut these kinds of expenses. Capital outlay, that's anything over the $5,000 threshold for capital. Often it's vehicles. This year and last year we purchased security vehicles because we have had to upgrade our security presence and make sure they're very visible in the community and on the campuses. As I mentioned not too long ago, we do have some debt service in our operating fund. This is a very limited exception. There are what's called tax maintenance notes or qualified school construction bonds. They are paid from our operating funds. They are the only things that can be approved by the board, and you'll notice they impact operating. So debt levy, which is a different element of the tax rate, that can only be implemented by voter approval. This is separate. It makes up 1% of our overall operating budget, and it's primarily related to the implementation of energy savings management programs. And then we have operating transfers. That's the same basic thing. About 1.5% of our budget goes to qualified school construction bonds or the energy management savings project. So goal 2 is about our people. And obviously, we want to provide a competitive compensation package that is attractive to new employees and which retains our existing employees. We also want to create and maintain an environment where people want to come to work and enjoy working. Moreover, we want parents to trust us enough to send their children to school here. You can see that there are 5 measurable targets here. Of those 5, 3 are measured by an independent third-party survey group out of Florida. They've done this for us for many years, so we are able to make apples-to-apples, year-over-year comparisons. It is a completely anonymous survey at all levels. This survey measures how do parents feel about the services provided to them. It measures how do employees believe they are supported in their work environment, and it measures the effectiveness of central office employees as determined by campus administrators. So we all are graded at some level or another by our peers, and those surveys are taken into consideration during evaluations. Additionally, we want to minimize the number of grievances. We want to be able to solve disputes, discrepancies, challenges with employees at the administrative level. And if we can't do that, there's a problem. So this particular metric says that we will remain below 0.5% of the total staff population will be dissatisfied enough that they file a grievance. We have managed to achieve all of these targets every time within either the 5-year period or often much shorter than that. And then the last metric is particularly important to this board and to some of our audience members. It's that the entry-level educator salary and benefits will be within the top 5 highest of all Region 19 districts. So we're not just looking at El Paso City, but we're looking at the county and Region 19, which, as you know, spreads all the way back to Sierra Blanca and some of those areas. So you also know me. I'm going to come up here and recommend a balanced budget. I've never recommended anything other than a balanced budget, meaning that we don't overspend revenues or our savings. However, I'm well aware that you are looking for a compensation increase for our employees. So with this budget, I have recommended a 2% increase at the midpoint for all job classes. So on the salary schedule for teachers, nurses, librarians, for hourly professionals and ancillary staff, and also for administrators. We also are still including the one-time lump sum $500 payment that comes right before the Christmas break. We call this a workforce stabilization payment, and it is available to any full-time employee who is employed on November 10th, 2023. Now, you may wonder why we do it that way. It's related to the Fair Labor Standards Act, and we don't want to have to try to figure out who's employed this day, that day, other days. So this is a day when everybody is supposed to be at work, and we can say, if you were a full-time employee with the district on that date, you're eligible for this particular stabilization payment. It is funded through ESSER as of this year and next year. Following that, we will have to look at, once again, taking it back into the general fund, but this one has been there before. And then always of concern is, what are health care costs doing? What are you going to do to my health insurance premiums? There is no increase built into the health care premiums for any employee for the next fiscal year. That's usually a big consideration. So once again, full-time employees on November 10th would be eligible to receive that $500 payment. If you are a monthly employee, you get it in the paycheck on November 30th. If you are a biweekly, you would get it in the regular paycheck on December 1st. And of course, we're required by the IRS and the taxing authorities to withhold applicable taxes and any other deductions that are required by law. So, looking at what does this percentage increase mean across the board. So a 2% on the salary schedule out of the general fund for all of these job classes would cost the district $6.4 million. The $500 one-time lump sum, which again is being paid from the ESSER 3 funding, is another $2.9 million, bringing the total compensation increases as recommended to $9.4 million. Eventually, all of this must be sustained out of the general fund. ESSER will go away, and this will be your budget obligation going forward. We have some sign-on bonuses that we will continue to offer. We have very few vacancies right now. I believe we have 20 teacher vacancies, 52 teacher vacancies, compared to hundreds in some of our neighboring districts. We want to welcome home our graduates, so if a student graduated from one of the Ysleta schools, we want them to come back to work for us, and we are offering a $2,500 sign-on bonus for those students. For bilingual and dual language new hires, we've increased that stipend to $5,000, and for special education teachers and this group of this classification of employees, we are offering a $10,000 sign-on bonus. These are our hard-to-fill positions, and so we want to incentivize that people join the district. This is also comparable with what our neighboring districts have adopted either just before us or are considering in their budget adoption.
Ms. Leeper,
Yes, sir?
when they, when they get on to those sign-on bonuses, how long are they required to work for the district?
As I understand it, we are not required to impose a length of time. Is that right, Ms. Bobby?
Yes, and actually you can speak with our former HR counsel and she can provide more information in that area. But legally, we cannot hold them to the district. We do require that they fulfill the full year.
Their contract period.
President Ochoa, good evening, board members, Superintendent Dr. De La Torre. Priscilla Mata, soon-to-be Chief Counsel. What I will add to that is that essentially you can, in addition to your sign-on bonus, you can hold your employees to the contract. So typically we're looking at a sign-on bonus that is going to incentivize their stay, but in addition to that, typically the school districts are asking their employees to honor the contract because they expect it the other way as well, that the district is going to honor the contract for employment purposes. So there's maybe not a separate agreement for the employee to stay on for the full school year, but you have, at the end of the day, an employment contract that you can rely on.
So what does that mean?
So it means that essentially you're giving a sign-on bonus, yes, and you're not left without any recourse, if you will, to make sure that that employee who received the sign-on bonus follows through and honors the contract for the term of the employment contract, which is typically the school year.
Okay, but if they don't, they just walk away with that sign-on bonus.
Right. If they don't have a contract, then you do run that risk.
Well, they do have a contract, though.
Right. Right. Yeah. So we're talking about your contract employees.
Okay, it's like teachers' contracts, right?
If they do resign prior to the end of the school year or they abandon their position, the stipend isn't paid out in full at the beginning. It's paid out over the course of the year. So let's say they leave in December, they're not going to receive the remainder of,
Okay,
of the,
okay.
the stipend for the,
That
the
makes sense.
spring semester.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. So looking at Goal 3, this involves protecting the district's assets and ensuring fidelity in the implementation of the bond program. There are two particular ratings that, or targets that measure our protection of district assets. The first is that we are able to earn a financial rating high enough to allow the district to operate efficiently and to model good stewardship of taxpayer dollars. And the second is that we will maintain an unassigned fund balance of at least 60 days of the next year's operating budget. So we would want to be able to, if something catastrophic happened, we could pay all of our bills for 60 days based on the next year's operating budget. So that's one of our goals, and we've always been able to meet that. The next three are actually, they change from year to year based on what projects are scheduled to be completed in that year. So you can see that Lancaster, in this particular example, Lancaster was scheduled to be all of its HVAC converted and done by the end of 2020. And it was delivered on time and on budget. But this changes from year to year based on the particular projects. All of our bond projects should be completed, and I believe we will meet the goal by November 2024, which is exactly 5 years from the date of the election, November 2019. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the big drivers in the budget. These are questions that we get asked because we're seeing, you see other entities, political subdivisions, local governments adopt budgets, and they don't have staffing ratios. They have, what's the demand for their services? So at police and fire, how many fire stations? What's the suburban sprawl? How far out do we have to go in the county to make sure that we provide that level of service? It's not the same here. We have staffing ratios. They are set by TEA. We are able to adopt up to a certain staffing ratio and not exceed it. We are at that level now. So for K4, kinder through fourth grade, the staffing ratio is 22 students to 1 teacher. Pre-K allows us to have 25 students in a classroom, but there are 2 people, a teacher and an aide. I believe that's right, Miss Bobby, yes? Okay, and then anything from from 5th grade through middle and high school has a staffing ratio of also 25 students per teacher. And that staffing ratio was in effect last year and will remain in effect this coming year. As you can imagine, with 85% of our budget being tied up in people, this is particularly important. And we've been able to staff at this level and maintain it successfully with an A rating. So it's not unwise to do it this way, and we've demonstrated that it works for the district. So when we look at revenue on the other side of the budget, you will see here several columns. So in the first, we're talking about the actual school year. So for the first 5 rows, talk about actual monies received, actual students counted. The last 3 rows look at the budget projection, the budget and the projection for this year, and then next year's projection and how we developed this particular budget. You can see that under the taper in 2017-2018, we had 41,000 students. We're projecting 35,000 for next year. Of those students who are enrolled with the district, they don't always attend school. And so we are paid based on their attendance, their average daily attendance. You can see then that in 2017-18, the actual number of students enrolled was 41,000, but roughly 38,000 attended school routinely, and that's what we got paid for. That was a loss from the prior year of 464 students in average daily attendance, otherwise known as ADA. So in each of those years, the 2017-18 actual through 2019-20 actual, we lost 3,000 students in ADA. The reason you see the asterisk in 21 and 22 actuals is because that's when the state said, whoa, we've got a pandemic, kids can't come to school, some aren't signing on, they're trying to learn remotely, we're going to hold you harmless. Because if we're funded this way, but we can't even get the kids in the classroom and they're not necessarily attending, the state recognizes if we take away your funding based on ADA, we've harmed your district and your ability to recover from this learning loss when you do come back. Now, it wasn't a full hold harmless for both years, it was really like a year and a half. So that loss, which was nets to about 1,000, the state didn't penalize us for in terms of revenue. In 22-23, we expected a loss in ADA of 267 students. It looks like it's going to be a loss of 1,300 students. That equates to revenue In the first year, or in this particular year, that's a loss of about $11 million in revenue from the state. And if next year's projections bear out, that's a loss of another $2.7 million. Now, you may wonder, how in the world are you showing a profit on your financial statements if you're losing this kind of revenue? I'm taking you back to ESSER. If you recall, I said we were going to pay salaries that will always be with us out of ESSER. Well, if I do that, it's like you're checking in your savings account. ESSER is your savings account. Checking is your general fund operations. Well, instead of paying it out of the general fund, for 3 years I've been paying it out of my savings account. Well, when I have depleted my savings, it's got to come back to checking. So right now, we still have money in savings, but eventually we're going to run through it, and we're going to have to come back to operating, and then you will see these losses truly begin to impact your operating fund. Does that make sense? Okay. So when we look at the total impact for next year through all revenue sources, whether it's local, which generally is our property tax, the state sources, which is ADA funding, and then federal sources, this is indirect cost recovery from the feds, we're talking about a $16.3 million loss in revenue. Now, we're required to talk about this, but as you know, we don't have certified property values yet. The best we have is what the El Paso Central Appraisal District calls preliminary certifieds. On July 23rd of last year, when they certified last year's values, we were at $7.4 billion. This year, the preliminary property value on April 22nd was $8.5 billion. That's a $1 billion increase, or 14%. Now, keep in mind, between preliminary and certified, their historical loss is 6% because they're under ARB review, Appraisal Review Board. So people dispute their property values, they come in, they argue with CAD, and those get settled. Historically, that means that this 14% would drop to about 8%. We will not get final certified values, which drive the tax rate and match our state funding. We don't get that until July 25th, 2023. So again, unlike the city, who adopts in August, they have both their certified values so they can do their budget and they can do their tax rate. We're never eligible to do that. We must always adopt a budget beforehand by June 30th, and then we have to adopt the tax rate after certified values come out on July 25th. Keep in mind that the way school funding works is it's inverse to what the state pays us. So a student generates $8,000 in revenue. It's $8,000 no matter where the money comes from. If my property values decline, the state makes up more funding. If my property values go up, the state gives me less funding. So you never get more than the roughly $8,000. It's just a difference between who's paying it, local or state. And so they don't penalize us, recognizing that values may or may not go up. They make sure that we're funded for education because, as I mentioned, education is a constitutional mandate for the state. They expect us to participate because they're our kids, but they don't put the burden entirely on us. And the foundation payments, which are payments from the state, those come in based on last year's or on current year property values. So whatever CAD establishes, that's what the state will base their reimbursement or their foundation payments on. This is always a big thing, and even though I'm not going to ask you, well, I can't ask you to adopt property tax rates today, I want you to see the history of our property tax rates. We have talked many times about how high Ysleta's rate is, and if you see many of the charts that the city will post or the county will post, Ysleta's got the highest rate. Well, that's true, we do, but we have the lowest tax bill. And the reason we have the lowest tax bill is because we offer the local optional homestead exemption. And I was asked a great question today, well, why is it optional? Who gets it, who doesn't get it? It's not the way it works. It's optional for you to adopt. Not every school board chooses to give the local homestead exemption. This school board has had a local optional homestead exemption in place based on what we can find since about 1994-95. At least that's what CAD tells us. Well, that means that a $100,000 home, if that's what the appraised value is, immediately gets reduced to $80,000 because 20% comes off the top. And right now, the state has a $40,000 mandatory exemption for homesteads, so that $80,000 home is now a $40,000 home. And our homeowner gets taxed on the $40,000, not on the $80,000, if you will. So yes, we do have the highest nominal tax rate, but so far compared to the city of El Paso, Socorro Independent School District, El Paso Independent School District, this district has the lowest tax bill of them all. Looking at this particular slide, I want you to see that in 2017, 2018, our total tax rate was at 1.455. In 1920, mind you, we have already passed the 2015 bond program and we've sold all the debt for 2015's bond program. Our tax rate has dropped to 1.35. In 2021 and 22, you can see it bumped up. We just sold the debt for the 2019 and we needed the revenue to support that debt levy. But last year, as values climbed, we dropped the rate again. We started back in our declining pattern, so now we dropped it to 1.4589. And although I don't have certified values today, I can project a proposed rate that is lower again than today's tax rate. I anticipate we will be able to adopt a rate of $1.4158. So I'm not asking you to adopt it tonight, but I want you to see the history of the tax rates and what I believe the tax rate will most likely come out to in August when we come back to you to adopt at that time. All right, so I know my peeps in the audience are waiting on this one. I told you I was going to recommend a balanced budget. I always do. It's 2% at the midpoint, and that is built into this budget. So there's no additional use of fund balance if we adopt a 2% at the midpoint for all job classes. However, if we want to keep the highest entry-level salary for teachers, nurses, and librarians, we have to go to $60,500. And that will mean that we need to increase that salary schedule by 3.65%. If we do a 3.5% for hourly employees and a 2% for admin and professionals, that means we have an additional use of fund balance of $5.2 million. So that's a moderate risk. And quite frankly, the next two are fairly moderate. There's not a lot of difference between the two. The last option then is, again, keeping that entry-level salary at $60,500, so we have the highest entry level for all teachers in, I think, not quite in Region 19, because we've got, is it Region 19? In Region 19. That is a 3.65 for teachers, a 4% for hourly folks, and then a 2% for admins and professionals. That would mean we need an additional use of fund balance. We would be adopting a budget deficit of $5.7 million. I said this last year, and I want to say it again this evening. As we get leaner and leaner, these budget deficits are going to be harder to absorb. We have done a great job, for the most part, of absorbing them, making it up. We've never laid off anyone. It's not our goal, and I don't think we'll have to do it now, but we will be carefully managing vacancies. So you may hear a principal say, they won't fill my vacancy. You're right. I'm holding it. I need to make up a deficit. It's just to be expected, but as we get tighter, leaner, and we get closer and closer to having a zero-sum game, you're going to see these deficits get harder to close. Do I believe we can close this managing vacancies? Yes. Is it going to be more challenging than it was last year? Yes. Okay, I think here we just have the rest of the budget calendar. You have the opportunity to adopt this budget tonight. If you don't want to, we already have a potential board meeting on June 28th when you can reconsider it, but it must be adopted by June 30th. No choices, must be done by then. And then in August, we have actually done this in August or September. We'll come back to you with the tax roll, meaning the certified property values and the proposed tax rate so that you can consider it all and adopt it at that time. And with that, I am happy to take any questions you may have.
Agenda twice.
Yes, ma'am.
To withdraw.
So, this is really hard to start because I really understand where you're coming from. I totally know that what you're saying is right on target because I know you're very professional. The thing that worries me and concerns me is that even though we don't maybe have many places to fill, we still have teachers who could decide to go somewhere else if they don't think that they're being appreciated enough. And I'm not talking just about teachers. I know last year I made the faux pas of just saying teachers. I'm talking about ancillaries. I'm talking about everybody that we employ. And so it concerns me that we would fall below that top entry-level spot. And it concerns me that because it's expensive to live out there, I mean, it's so expensive to live out there, it concerns me that, that the 2% doesn't feel like enough to me.
I understand.
It doesn't feel like enough to me. And so, I don't even know what question to ask in this case. I'm just expressing my concerns that I feel like that we really need to go higher than 2%. And I know that that puts a strain on us. I know all these things. I don't think that there's a home in El Paso right now that's not feeling the strain of a budget, because money's tight everywhere. And so I know that it does put a strain on us, but in my opinion, we need to go higher than 2%.
I might add, and I didn't say it early on, but we had anticipated the legislature would reach a decision, and we would see them tell us, because one of the first bills said, we're going to give you more money, we're going to reduce property tax, we're going to make you whole, but you have to give 50% of it to your staff. So we were waiting for that, anticipating it. Because they haven't done it, it makes it more difficult to recommend these, because I don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
I still think they will fund some level of increase in some of the legislation before they actually have to adopt their formal budget on August 31st.
I know. To me, that's the most disappointing thing of everything that's happened, is the state legislature. I mean, honestly, come on, people, get your act together here. But because people are depending on that. So in case that they do pass something like that, but then I know we can't guess what it's going to be. I know all of those things. So,
Well, if nothing else, if they do, we are prepared to make the amendments as necessary without necessarily having to come back to you. So we recognize they may very well do it. I will tell you, based on the fact that I believe they'll do it, I can live with either of the options that gives us the $60,500 as the entry-level salary, because I don't believe this entire deficit will be on us to recover. I think some of this will come through the state. It's just I don't know what, so I provided the most conservative estimate to give you a balanced budget. Yes, I think we'll get this, and I think we can make it up, and it would help to have the offset from the state.
and so but then the middle option there, that doesn't include the teachers, right?
No, ma'am. They both, all of these schedules include.
No, I meant the 3.5, I'm sorry, it was me. The 3.5% is just for hourlies. That's not,
No, ma'am. So
No?
teachers, nurses, and librarians would get 3.65%.
okay, I'm just
Hourly
looking at
would
it
get
wrong.
3.5 in the middle scenario, and admins and professionals would get 2%. If you go to the very bottom one, that gives the hourly folks 4%, teachers, nurses, and librarians 3.65.
I'm sorry, I was totally reading the chart wrong. So-
I'm sorry. I should have made it more clear then.
No, I don't think it's your fault. I think it's me.
So
But-
either of those does include the entry level being the highest, at least as we can compare today, because we do have some districts that have not yet adopted, but that would put us at the highest level for entry, and then it takes care of our custodians, our bus drivers, our
Right, but-
cafeteria workers, and all of those groundskeepers.
So actually what I'm saying though is, but the bulk of our teachers, because we're not going to be hiring very many brand-new teachers, would still get the 2%. Am I wrong? No? I'm still wrong. Good.
In either of the bottom
That's good.
boxes, they would get, the starting salary would be $60,500, and it builds off of that, right? There's a step per year.
Mm-hmm.
So either of the two bottom boxes, our teachers would get 3.65%.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry about that. I totally
I believe
didn't
it's
read
off the
that right.
midpoint, and 3.65 is the equivalent of $2,300?
2,415.
It's $2,400 increase for every step.
Up to step
Okay,
30.
thank you.
You're
That makes me feel much better. I feel like that is,
I'll I'll take the stress.
Well, good,
if I can take it off
a
you.
good option. And I'll learn how to read a chart next time. Sorry.
No, ma'am, that's fine. I see various hands, so I'm not sure
Do you
Mr.
have the
Ochoa.
numbers if the entry level was 60,000?
I'm sorry?
The highest right now is kind of T with 60,000, right?
Yes, that would,
And if we matched it, what would?
we are actually, at 60,500, we exceed everybody else. So I think the closest, Bobby, was at 60,000?
Yes, the closest district at this point that has adopted a budget is 60,000.
60,000, so we would be ahead of them.
But if we did 60,000, what would that number look like? Additional use of
If we
fund
did
balance?
60,000, instead of going to 60,500,
I'm not saying to do it, I'm just wondering what the number would look like.
so they're back there because they have a nifty calculator, but I may bring them up here closer to me if we're going to start playing, because I thought you might do that to me, and I'm going to have my calculator right next to me this time.
Thank you. I had some extra questions.
Go ahead.
I was looking at the instructional resources and media services, and it looks like they're being cut by 18%.
Okay, I'm sorry. Tell me where you are.
The instructional resources and media services,
Sorry, my slides don't want to move. Hector, let me use a mouse. Okay.
I don't know where they are in the slides.
It is, Hector, mine's frozen. You're going to have to drive for me, please. It is all the way back on about slide 4. It's the instructional where we show 66.75%. Nope, next one, number 3. I think, no, I lied. Number 6.
I don't know if it's on that. Oh, there we go. Number 12.
No?
It's that one.
Yes,
Where it
so
says
instructional
funded function?
resources and media, $1 million.
Number 12. Last year it was 1,223,000.
I wish Dr. Chacon was here to take credit because she did a phenomenal job, but she is not. So I will explain as best I can her strategic abandonment process. So Dr. Chacon went through an exercise that took about a year with a consultant, and they went through with a task force from every campus, every age level, and together they identified all the duplication in their strategic resources, meaning where are we using a program for math and there are 4 different programs? Which one best matched the TEKS and provides the support, the instructional support we need? And then they went through and said, okay, we can abandon all of these because they're duplicative. And so she was able to still get an A rating and those end of course exam scores and reduce the instructional resources by that much.
The year before that, it was over 6 million.
I'm
So
telling
was
you.
there that much?
Yes, you're still getting an A rating. And there may be some of this in ESSER. David, is any of this in ESSER? Is any of the instructional resources, did we put any in ESSER funding? Not currently. That's all strategic abandonment and just getting leaner. And if you would like, I can get Dr. Chacon. I may even have some of the experts back there. Dr. K can see me looking at her. We can get you the detail on what was abandoned.
The other question I had was on, I don't remember what number it was. But,
Tell me what it's about and I'll go find it.
board contracted services, board operating services.
Yes, so it should be.
It's $800 to $1,000 for,
You know what, I saw that, contracted services. Oh, I know. It is over on slide 7, Hector, and let me see. No, I can move now. No, I'm not moving now. Okay, contracted services, yes, utilities, generally, and professional development is in there. So when we bring in the talk, write, read, write professional development consultant, this is where the funding comes from.
so we're spending $656,000 to train us?
No, it's, so this is far more than that, nearly 10% of the budget, 45 million
Well,
is.
this was board contracted services. It was specifically for the
Oh,
board.
board contracted services?
Yes, ma'am. I can
Okay,
find the
that's
number.
your training.
It's $656,000.
Okay. So that is, where are we? Are we in the budget book?
So
Go
for
ahead.
the instructional resources, some of those software items were moved over to IMA.
Okay.
When it comes
Instructional
to
materials development.
the question of going to 60,000, that's comparable to like a 3%. So instead of seeing the 6 million, 6.7 million, we would then experience 5.5 million, or an increase of 2.1 million for the TNL
Let me
side.
find the number.
Okay.
This is just for the board? and
Yes.
it's-
So in the budget book, the board's contracted services, can you see that amount? I don't have the budget book up here. $646,000. So I'm going to say that's conferences, that's the consultant that comes in and trains the board, probably TASB kinds of dues. We'll let them look. Tell me your next question. We will make sure we get you an answer.
Why? Why are we spending that much? I mean, last year I did a lot of online classes for free. I spent like $50 on a couple. But to spend $656,000 when we're cutting the instructional resources and media services, there's got to be a way we can cut the board contracted services by 200 and move it over if we need it.
So I don't know if you heard Mr. Solis, but what he said was that we had instructional materials allotment, which is federal funding that we were able to, or the state and federal funding, where we were able to fund more of the instructional resources from there versus straight out of the general fund. So it's more title money, grant money.
Or even move it to, I mean, if that's an ongoing figure, let's move it to, I mean, of course, with the board's approval, but move it over to salaries or something. I don't understand why we need to spend that much for board contracted services. And then what are the other operating services that cost $112,000?
It's also legal services for the board. For all of the district, says Susan. It's whispering to me over here. And I'm sorry, the budget book is over there. I can go get it if you want me to go through.
My last question was just, what's the general fund balance now?
I didn't bring my financials. I think 115, David?
I have it right here.
Thank you. Are you looking at audited financials or are you looking at projected? I prefer audited.
The audited financials, I believe, were 125 million.
Thank you. 10 off.
And then why do we want a general fund balance that high? It was my understanding we want to keep it at 2 or 3 months of operating costs. which should be
GFOA
about-
actually recommends 90 days. Our goal is 60 days. But if you recall, I said I'm spending out of savings, so I am saving money over here in the general fund. When savings goes away, I'm going to need this savings to sustain us while we get caught up on the expenses that are coming back into the general fund. We had hoped, I will tell you frankly, we had hoped that we would be able to take those savings and invest them in places like this building. There's no bond money for this building. It's 50 years old, and it's had no major investment in it. But we're not going to be able to do much more than the nominal cosmetic work that you see. But it had been our goal to save some of that money because ESSER gave us the opportunity to do it, to invest in capital in this building. It's got a 4-pipe system. It's old. It's dilapidated. The cooling towers out there need to be replaced. Some of that's already going to get done, but we're not going to have as much savings as I had hoped because of the loss in membership and ADA.
Yes, my question
So I'm
is-
making bank so that we can pay for the future.
I certainly understand, and I would like to know, say ESSER funds dried up tomorrow, how long would we have until that money's depleted down to the 90 days? But the previous administration, if they told us correctly, they stated that a fund balance that high would negatively affect our credit rating. Is that true?
I'm sorry, I can barely hear. So
The previous administration stated, I don't know if it's true or not, that a fund balance that high would negatively affect our credit rating when we would go out for that
okay, so a
AAA
couple of
rating or
things.
whatever it is.
What you are not allowed to do is bank taxpayer money. So I can't go collect as much money as I can from the taxpayer and then sit on it. They expect me to use that money to achieve the objective of educating children, so that you are never allowed to just accumulate taxpayer money and sit on it. You can accumulate tax money for 2 to 3 years for major capital investments, for a known fiscal cliff, if you will. You are absolutely allowed, and it's recommended that you do, but you don't want 120 days of fund balance sitting there, and we won't be in that position. And then you said something else, and I'm sorry. No, I just forgot.
Well, that was the question, was, I guess, if
Oh,
the ESSER
credit
funds
rating.
were to dry up,
So
how quick would we?
The only opportunities we have for issuing debt going forward are on refundings, and those would be taxable refundings. And our credit rating is excellent right now. In fact, I will share with you the Moody's update because it was very complimentary of this board's fiscal management. how transparent you are, and it had great things to say about this district and our management of the finances, particularly the board's transparency. So I will share that with you. But I anticipate our fiscal health is good enough that we will maintain the bond rating we've had, and you know how well our bond sales have gone. Okay, we will get you the other answers. Oh, they're
And just very
waving at me
quickly,
getting the
another,
answers.
another expense that we have to prepare for and anticipate is the artificial surface on all of our stadiums. Likely has maybe 2 to 3 years, if we're lucky. That'll be a pretty major expense. And then shortly after that, we'll have baseball fields and softball fields. So once you go there, you're going to have to build in this pool of money and anticipate when you're going to have to replace all of that turf, and it's pretty expensive.
And your middle school and high school tracks need to be redone, so you've got lots of capital needs out there that were not addressed in the bond. Yes, sir, or yes, ma'am, over there.
So 540,000 is allocated for legal services within the board's budget. The other 100,000 is for our annual audit from Whitley Penn.
Okay. There we go. Were there any others, sir, that we didn't answer?
I don't think so. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I have 4 questions here. First one, could we go over the learning loss again? You mentioned that 20% of a fund will need to be used. Could you explain that again for my benefit and the public's benefit, please?
Yes, but Hector, I'm sorry, the system is frozen. You're going to have to drive. We're going to slide 4. Thank you. Yes, sir. So ESSER 3 is in the 4th column, and you can see that there it was $139 million. 20% of that had to be dedicated to learning loss. We primarily did that through teachers and through past tutors, because that's who's going to remedy the learning loss. There were some programs maybe that we used, maybe Dr. Chacon could speak more fluently on that, but for the most part, this went to staff that already exist within the district other than the past tutors.
Okay. Thank you. And we spoke about sign-on bonuses, teacher contracts. When a teacher's hired, it's for 1 year.
Their contract under Chapter 21 is for a year, and Ms. Bobby can tell me the dates when that your deadline, and then you have to serve or you're not going to be released.
So we have 3 different teacher contracts in the district. We have our probationary contract, which is in the first 3 years of starting as a teacher, or it's for 1 year if you've taught the last 5 of 8 in the state of Texas and you transfer over to our district as a new employee. The second type of contract, which is what a majority of our teachers are in, with the exception of probably about 30 to 40, is our Chapter 21 contract. Now, that's an automatic renewal, and what that means is that it renews automatically every year unless they're non-renewed or terminated for cause. And the third type of contract, which is very rare, and we stopped utilizing it in 1996, I believe it was, is a continuing contracted teacher, and that's one that you only can terminate the contract for cause, and it never renews, it just stays continuous throughout their tenure.
Thank you. Do we know our retention rate of teachers in the district, especially our first-year teachers that get this sign-on bonus? How many of them are continuing to stay with the district?
I can verify that, but I can tell you our overall attrition rate for this last school year was 5%. As far as teachers go, I just filled out a survey with US Prep.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to CAD, you said that we would be most likely working with 6% less than what they projected. But I believe you also, is it my understanding that that doesn't really affect our funding because the state will make up that deficit?
So when it comes to the per-student allocation, yes. Now, keep in mind, there are 2 different components of a tax rate. There's the M&O piece, right, and there's the interest and sinking fund. The state does not make up the burden on interest and sinking fund. They only make it up on maintenance and operations. So if our property values increase, and it looks like they will by roughly 8%, the state is going to reduce the amount of funding they give us because our property values went up. So we still get $8,000 más o menos for a student, Doesn't matter whether it's ours or the state's, it's only 8,000. So if my property values go up, the state has to contribute less to keep that 8,000 whole, which is why you probably hear the argument at the legislature, raise that basic allotment. You haven't accounted for inflation. It's been 8,000 for years. We need, if you're going to make it 8,000, you ought to have an inflationary aspect. So every year it goes up a little bit. But yes, it's 8,000 per student, property value goes up. That means I get more property tax revenue locally, then the state's going to give me less money.
And then my last question, at least for now, touches on what Mr. Haggerty was asking about legal services. I'm curious, how is that spent? Is this on retainer? Is this case by case?
I think it's hourly, but I know someone who can speak fluently to it. So yes, it's for the board's attorney. It is an hourly bill, detailed, itemized, and it's for review of the agendas. It's for, are these the same?
Well, if I might, Anthony Safi, I believe that number is all outside legal services performed for the district. The portion of those that are directly board-related is relatively small, a small part of that total. But it covers, for instance, labor and employment matters. It covers litigation. It covers all defense of all claims subject to the typically $100,000 self-insured retention in the insurance policies. You have errors and omissions coverage, but there is a deductible, if you will, of like the first $100,000. So those legal fees are used in those defending those cases. So it covers all of the outside legal services performed by law firms on behalf of the school district. It includes your special ed. I believe this is, well, I could be mistaken about that. I don't know if the special ed attorney's fees, special education attorney's fees are included in this number. They are. The attorney's fees paid to your special education lawyers, outside counsel, are included in that amount.
Rate 41?
Right. It included the amount paid to legal counsel to represent the district along with the other members of the so-called Rate 41 group in the El Paso Electric Company rate cases. And so it covers a lot of different things in addition to just the legal services that are directly related to board issues.
So I know that at the city, our budget per year was a minimum $1 million for outside legal, and they have a staff of 20 lawyers on staff. So $540,000 for all counsel, that's pretty remarkable. And then we have one in-house counsel. Well, okay, 1.5. You're a short timer. So that's actually very good, very reasonable.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bustillos.
Ms. Leeper,
Yes, sir.
on security, can you go over, I know they made some changes at state on things that we're going to have to be doing. Does that cover this budget? Or is that money going to come in from the state?
So you'll love this. The state's allocation went from $9.72 to $10 per student, plus $15,000 per campus. So I anticipate that exactly what I'm going to spend on security to get Armed Defender program up and running is going to be covered by the 28 cents more per student and the $15,000 per campus. And keep in mind, in addition to Armed Defender, we have completely new safety standards that were unfunded. So every fence has to be at least 6 feet non-scalable or 8 feet scalable. You have to have ballistic film anywhere that's not behind a fence. So we have some pretty significant expenditures. Those are not here, but I anticipate I'm going to get some money from the state. It's just tied up in the legislative battle.
So it's an unknown.
But for armed defenders, that's covered in this budget.
It's covered.
For everything else, not yet.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes,
All
sir.
right. Would that also include security vests for the?
So for armed defenders, we are talking about vests, we are talking about ammunition, we're talking about weapons, we are talking about training, psychological evaluation, all of those things.
But to get vests for the whole security force, how much extra would that be?
Oh, Rod, how much is a vest? 600 per, and we've got 60? 88. So 90 times 60? We can probably do that.
54?
5,400. 2 zeros, 54? Yeah.
54.
90
54,000?
times 6, oh, 600, 54,000, my bad. I thought he said 60. You're right, 54,000. That's doable. Do they really want to wear them?
The ones I've talked to, absolutely.
Okay. Well, for sure, the armed offenders will be wearing vests.
I don't know if maybe it'd be possible to look at getting, because I don't, God forbid anything happens, but I would hate to have, I don't see somebody coming in to do harm, picking and choosing, oh, that guy's got a vest and that guy doesn't, so I mean,
Right. No, I think the 54,000 is doable, which would equip every security officer with a vest.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Who had a question? Oh. Well, while they're waiting, on that amendment that you were talking about, if the legislature does come through with some money for pay raises, that'll make it automatic, as if they come through with that it just goes on the teacher's pay without us having to
Yes.
to
So
convene or
if they
anything.
come through and say 30% of what we give you or 50% of what we give you must go into the teachers, or the entire pay schedule. I don't want to just single out teachers. So if they come through and do that, this amendment or the resolution would allow us to make that amendment to the compensation plan to comply with law.
Okay, and that is already there?
It's in the resolution, yes, sir.
Okay.
And I believe it's in the motion and the script for this evening.
Good, good. I think that will alleviate a lot of headaches as far as how do we place
Okay.
that money in the teacher's hands. So,
Yes, sir. I think we all want that.
any other questions?
Yes. So it's absolutely my goal that our teachers are the highest paid in the county. But I am a little concerned about the consequences. We're going to need additional funds of over $5 million to do this, correct?
Yes, so the additional reduction to fund balance. Hector, will you drive to slide 19, please?
And we will pay for this by not filling vacancies.
Yes, we won't lay off anyone, but as vacancies become available, we can hold them. And as Mr. Ochoa and Ms. Woodruff both mentioned, if the state does provide additional funding, it can very well offset this. And
That'll
still-
be fantastic. I'm curious, though, if that doesn't come through and we're left with not having vacancies, not filling vacancies, would you be able to speak to how this affects the education of the children and the burden that it's going to put on our current staff by not having additional vacancies filled? Are there vacancies that we're looking at that like we really don't need these, or are we going to be hurting, especially our students' education and the attention that they're getting, because we can't hire people that are needed because we gave a raise requiring $5 million more.
So keep in mind, if an average teacher's salary and benefits is $80,000, this equates to about 65 positions at that value. Administrators may be more, central office staff may be more, where hourly staff may be less. So I think Ms. Russell Garcia mentioned earlier today, it would take roughly 2 custodians or cafeteria workers to make up one of those positions out of the 65 I'm saying we would have to make up. We, as Ms. Russell Garcia also mentioned, we have staffed already appropriately according to the staffing ratio. If, however, as school begins and we start seeing that we don't have a full class here or a full class there, we can go up to the staffing ratio. We can't go over the staffing ratio without a waiver, and she knows the details of that, but I will tell you that it's not arbitrary. You can't just say, well, I'm going to stick 35 in that classroom because I don't want to hire the teacher. We're not allowed to do that. Ms. Russell?
May I add to that? Thank you.
Please.
A student will never go without a teacher, and we will never overburden our teachers. We have to maintain those staffing ratios that we establish. So if we did need to cut positions or hold positions, and we have classrooms that have 22 students that require one teacher, we're not going to not fill educator positions because those positions are necessary. What we would do is take a look at central office. We'd look at support personnel. We would look at different positions, and in that facet, we wouldn't take from the campuses. There's other positions at each campus where we have 2 instructional coaches. So we may need to look at something like that and remove an instructional coach that doesn't have a full-time teacher necessity at the campus. But we would never have a student go without a teacher.
But we wouldn't remove somebody that's currently hired in that 2 instructional, when you mentioned the 2 instructional people are needed, we wouldn't fire anybody, would we? Is that possible?
No, absolutely not. I can tell
Okay.
you that in the 13 years I've been in human resources and the 7 years that I've had this role, we have never riffed or let a person go based on a raise. What we do is through attrition. And so we look at the staffing ratios, and if enrollment is down at one particular campus, and that we need a teacher, let's say at Dolphin Terrace, they have a classroom of 12 and a classroom of 10. Well, we can combine those 2 first grade classrooms. And that one teacher that it was originally going to be assigned to Dolphin Terrace, we may be able to put at North Star because they have a need for a subsequent first grade classroom. So no one ever loses their job. It's just we play chess to make sure everybody is appropriately staffed. And we have a regulation that determines who has more seniority versus less seniority at each campus so that it's fair and equitable across the board.
That sounds very good. So let me ask this. You say that we're anticipating, or most likely, that $5 million, if we approve that raise of 3.65%, that will most likely be offset?
So if the state moves forward with any of their proposed salary increases, yes, I think they'll offset most of this. And if not, then we have a plan in place where we would try to do it through the loss of or positive attrition of 65 positions, or the equivalent of.
So, I'm of the opinion it's better to work with what we know we have, and if the funds come in, is my understanding right that we can make a decision late? Let's say, for example, we only approved a 2% raise, and then we find out, hey, we are getting these funds and we can afford it. Would we be able to put that raise into place later in the year, or do we have to do this now, or it's not going to happen?
So no, with this actual resolution, that's a great question. You could adopt the 2% at the midpoint in a balanced budget, and then under the resolution, if the state gives us the money, you could pass that through immediately to the employees by amending the comp plan through resolution.
If the state,
If the state gave it to you. If the state
If the state-
doesn't,
and also requires it.
right. I'm sorry, that was a given. If the state gives it to us and requires it, then by resolution, you could implement it at that time.
And I know there's no way to predict the future, but your best guess is that we would be receiving at least some additional funds. Is that correct?
My best guess is there's going to be some raise get through.
Okay, thank you.
And just to go back to what we were talking about, because our primary mission is academic, we would rather come to you at the end of the year and say we were unable to close the debt and had to rely on fund balance than unnecessarily move teachers that are critical to maintaining a TEA, A rating, a high college career military percentage, all of the things that we're so proud of and that we've accomplished. I'd rather come back and say we were able to maintain that, but instead of finding 5.7, we found 4.5, and so we're short 1.2 million. That will have to come from the reserve or the fund balance. But we've never, Bobby and her team, given the size of the district, the number of employees, the positive attrition, by that I mean the retirements and resignations that we see by December and certainly in the spring, coupled with declining enrollment, What we're doing is we're continuously reconciling the balance or the budget to make sure that at the end, we're balanced. But you're right, there are two ways to approach it. One, you can roll the dice and see what happens in Austin. Or
I'm sorry to interrupt. You would consider rolling the dice, giving them the raise now without having the funds?
no, I would consider anticipating or expecting the state to give you the resources to accommodate a much larger raise. When it comes down to it, they want to trade vouchers for money. And until they get their vouchers, they won't release any of the money, and I don't know how that's going. I haven't heard anything in some time. There will probably likely be some special sessions. If they were to
Dr.
reach
De-
some kind of an agreement, those monies would come in and they'd likely have a requirement that the money go right through to the teachers. The board wouldn't even have to meet because it would be a matter of law. Money lands, 40% goes onto the teacher schedule.
Dr. De La Torre, we went to the legislative update, and what they're saying is that there will be some sessions. They expect it to happen. They didn't exactly say, but they said that we should know something by August or September. That's the two dates that they gave, because they said that they haven't settled anything there. They haven't even, they've got money appropriated, and it's just sitting it's just sitting there, and they haven't decided anything yet. So they will have to come back for a special session, but that should happen at the latest in September.
Thank you.
Yeah,
much
they
do we
have a
spend on the
surplus of
$500?
$13.2 billion that they can act on.
How much do we spend on the $500 bonus?
2.9 million out of ESSER. It's not on here because it's already built in, so it's back on the other slides.
But we were absorbing that cost before ESSER came
Yes,
around?
we were.
So just in case,
So right
don't
now,
get the
because I have
5.1,
it built
we have
into the
that
savings, I'm
2.9.
using it, but I want you to know, we've had it for the last 8 years. Employees are going to expect it, so I want you to see what the impact will be next year.
but I would rather see, if one had to go, I'd rather see those percentages be higher, because that means in the long term, they're going to be making more money.
You'd rather see these percentages be higher?
I'm not saying get rid of the bonus by any means, but if it came down to it where we didn't get any dollars and we were that strapped for cash and we weren't going to rift anybody, then that could be a different pool that we could look at eliminating to cover the percentages, because once you make 3.5%, any raise on top of that, you're going to be making more, as opposed to a one-time payment.
Well, so we would look at it in light of, what does the state require us to add? Did we already cover it? Then we won't add anything else. Right? So if the state says, here's the amount you're getting, 40% has to go through, and that 40% is worth about, what is it all the way across? 3.6 million, or the total, then we would just say we've already done it, and we're going to use what the state gave us to offset this deficit. If the state comes back and it's actually the equivalent of 4.5 by law that I have to pass through, then I'm going to come back and say, okay, I need 0.9 more. So the real risk, I think, to the point that you all are making, is if the state does nothing, can I come up with 65 vacancies that I don't fill without harming academic instruction? I would say yes, based on the history, we can do that.
I think one of the things we're also not talking about that makes a big impact, as Mr. Hernandez was stating a while ago, is our teachers. Teacher retention. If we are not competitive with our neighbors, and I'm a brand new teacher, they know economics. They're going to look at the numbers and say what is more profitable for them where is more profitable for them. They want to teach, for sure, but if we offer them suitable salary that is competitive with our neighbors, or even better than them, we will be able to retain our teachers that we have, so we won't have those deficits in allocating teachers per classroom. And I think even so, we might attract more from the neighboring districts to fill our spots. And those are another thing that we have to look at. And they talk a lot about it at this conference we went to, was teacher retention, that how do you do it? And this is one of the ways, I think. So let's not lose sight of that as well. I mean, I know budget is budget, and we all have budgets at home, and we know how it works, but we also have to look at what is the best for our students. We have to provide qualified, certified teachers that have been here for years, not only the new teachers, but the teachers that have had experience. I mean, personally, I think it takes a teacher at least 3 years to become a great teacher in the classroom. The first 2 years are a learning curve for them. And I'm talking from experience, that I think you could back me up on that, Connie, that it takes a while for a teacher to get to know what to do, how to do it, when to do it, where to do it, and how to communicate and to teach their students. So we want retention, but we have to be, like I said, cognizant of that when we're voting on this budget. And that's just what I wanted to mention.
Well, and also, on top of that, what we're talking about too is that we want our teachers to do a lot of extra things, that it's not just about instruction in the classroom. We didn't become an A district because the teachers just taught in the classroom. We got it because they did extra work tutoring children, adding different things to their teaching repertoire that would help children to catch up in these areas where they were behind. And so we at Ysleta are asking a lot of our teachers. We're asking a lot of our teachers. It's not just I'm going to get up there and I'm going to be teaching, and like Mr. Ochoa said, yes, it takes a while for people to get to that place, but there's so much more that we are asking of our teachers. So,
When we are asking more of our teachers, is that included in the 20% of the learning loss? Ms. Woodruff just said that, they're doing extra instruction. Are they being compensated for that? Or when they do this extra work, are they still, or are they still on their base salary?
They're being compensated for
They're
that,
being
Trustee
compensated
Hernandez.
on top of their base salary for the extra work that they're doing. So if we have teachers not taking on extra work, I mean, it's their option, because if they are taking on extra work, they're going to be making more money than their base salary, correct?
Yes, if they work outside of the regular business day, then they do get compensated for that additional time. So if they perform tutoring, let's just say at an elementary campus from 4 to 5:30 in the afternoon, when the school day for them is over at 3:30, they would be compensated for that hour and a half.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. My pleasure.
They also get compensated during our October break, right?
Yes, sir, if they opt
If
to
they
teach in
if they choose
intercession.
to work that one extra week, the intercession, right?
Yes, sir.
So it's not, the duties are, they select to work those weeks. So not every teacher has that opportunity.
Generally, during intercession, there's an interview process. If there's an abundance of teachers at a particular campus that is interested in teaching the week of intercession, otherwise, anyone that volunteers for that time, if there's not enough, would be selected.
Okay. I have one other question. Last year, when we adopted the budget, did we have a deficit budget?
Yes, sir.
How much?
10.5 million.
How did we end up?
We're not there yet. I suspect we're going to use 3/4 of it. We're going to be 7 over.
7 over?
We're going to, instead of 10.5, we'll be at 7. So we'll use 7 of our savings.
Okay. And the year before that?
Nothing. We had savings the year before.
Okay. But we also adopted a deficit budget on that year.
Yes, sir, you
And then
have.
we came up with some savings.
I think we've done a really good job of managing those vacancies and
Oh, yeah.
adopting fair raises. The challenge is that as membership declines, we're getting hit double-sided. We're going to lose ESSER and we're losing state revenue because we're losing students.
Yeah, ESSER funds, we knew were temporary. They
Yes,
weren't
sir.
going to be with us forever.
But you're right, this team is great. They've made up every deficit to date. This one, we won't probably make up the whole thing this existing fiscal year, but we'll make up a good chunk of it.
Okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Dwyer.
Yes, I believe everybody here knows my background. I understand that top line, TNL, is extremely important. Please do not lose sight of the second line, the paraprofessionals, or the ancillary. The ladies who run the cafeterias, the people who come in and clean the classrooms, security, all of those people are extremely important. It takes a village to raise a child. So as we go through this, and of course, administration and as well is extremely important. But I think as a board, we should look at all lines, not just focus on the top one, which is extremely important. But those other two right below it are extremely important as well.
Agreed, sir. Thank you.
I have a question, now that Mr. Dwyer brought that up. Is there opportunity for our staff in the paraprofessional ancillary to make extra money, to do extra work, the way our teachers have the opportunity?
Absolutely. I have a whole bunch of bus drivers and transportation folks that are doing grounds work, and they're doing custodial work over this summer. So they typically aren't driving buses right now, and they're helping us with transitions, with campus moves, with relocations, with painting, with groundskeeping. Yes, we give them the opportunity.
And
Fantastic.
one more, Mr. Hernandez.
Yes, sir.
There's been many security guards with the district who have gone on to work for the El Paso Police Department as well. So there is ways that they can
Advance.
move up, all right?
Thank you, Mr. Dwyer, and thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it. Thank you for confirming.
Yes, sir. I get to
Okay.
sit? I'm going to leave this slide for the public comment that's coming.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Mathewson, is there anyone signed up to speak?
Yes, President Ochoa, we have Arlinda Valencia, President of YTA. Our topic is salary.
Good evening, President Ochoa, Dr. De La Torre, Board of Trustees. I'm Orlinda Valencia, President of the Ysleta Teachers Association. And I'd like to first welcome our two new board members. We really are looking forward to working with both of you this year. This board has some great people on it and have a reputation of doing an outstanding job. Your commitment to staying the #1 district in the area is, or if not the entire state, has earned you the respect of being the best. I would also like to send a great big shout out to our educators for being the top EOC testing. They got the best scores in EOC, and that is just awesome. Our teachers and employees are the best, and they have earned a well-deserved raise. Tonight, you will be deciding on a salary increase, and we hope that you will consider what it would take to get starting teachers at $60,500. This is our goal. YTA is asking for a 3.5% raise for all educators. For hourly workers, we are hoping they can get the same as educators, a 3%, or like on number 3, we'd love to see them get a 4%. Administration is the highest paid employees, but they need a raise too, and we're asking for them to get a 2%. The district will be showing you, well, they showed you different scenarios, and the balanced one is for 2%. I'm asking for the 3% so that we can stay ahead of all the other districts. We can't let them catch up. At this time, if we could give 3.5% raise, it would be the magic number for $60,500 starting pay. If Socorro wants to match us, they'll have to give us 6%. If El Paso wants to match us, they're going to have to go to a 10%. But if the board stays at 2%, the other districts can reach us with a 4 and a 6. YTA is asking the board to please keep Ysleta District on top. I do want to thank the administration for keeping higher health care costs down and not passing it through the employees, and keeping the $500 Christmas stipend in all the salary proposals. If this board tonight votes in a 3.5% proposal for educators as a salary package, it will send a huge message to all employees that they are appreciated for their hard work. YTA also appreciates the administration, Dr. De La Torre, Ms. Lindley, Mrs. Russell Garcia, for during this time. They have been very helpful. YTA wants to continue working with this board, and we hope that tonight you can come together and vote for all employees to at least get 3.5%. The 2% won't work. I would like to say that you're talking about the $5 million that are over. I'm asking you, like you said, you don't want to wait. Some of you want to wait till August. Some of you don't. I'm asking you, don't wait till August to find out if we're going to get money, because I don't believe the legislature will do that. But if so, that would be great. But the $5 million could easily come from the fund balance. With a $125 million fund balance, that $5 million could easily come from there. And then, hey, if the state brings in more money, you can replenish the fund balance. That's what I'm asking you to do. And I'm sure all of the employees of this district would appreciate it also. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. At this time, we will now close the public hearing. Okay, budget action item number 1, adopt the 2023-24 official budget and compensation plan. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I think I'm saying the wording right. Maybe Mr. Safi, you can help me. But I would like to make a motion to postpone the vote until June 28th. It was mentioned we already have a meeting scheduled for June 28th. And at that time, we can still approve the budget within the deadline. And because I do want to give those raises, and I do want to be fiscally responsible about it, it was just mentioned we can find those funds in a $125 million fund balance. I think it may be easier to make that case if we can have more time so that we all feel comfortable knowing that we're going to find that $5 million in the fund balance. And frankly, I'm brand new. I could use the the extra time. And if my colleagues would agree, I would like to postpone approving the budget until the 28th.
Okay, so your motion is to postpone it till June 28th. That's correct?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a second?
Thank you.
There's no second, the motion dies. Okay, is there any further discussion? Ms. Lindley, do we have to choose which package do we support?
I'm sorry, say it again, sir? Oh,
Okay,
I can support either of those,
we
sir.
have a motion up here.
Do you want it by, instead of
Well-
electronic?
Well, no, just make your motion.
Okay. Mr. President, I move to approve a resolution adopting the 2023-2024 official budget as presented and revised to include the general fund budget of $397,950,668, the child nutrition service budget of $26,360,000, and the debt service budget of $50,653,421, and further incorporating the 2023-2024 annual compensation plan as provided in the resolution as presented with revisions, including a salary increase of 3.65 of midpoint for a teacher, nurse, librarian salary schedule, a salary increase of 4.00% of midpoint for full-time paraprofessionals and ancillary, and a salary increase of 2.00% of midpoint for full-time administrative and professional personnel.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Hagerty seconds. Please.
Mr. Ochoa, I think we have a question?
Yes, so Mr. Solis perhaps can read the numbers. So if you put in those percentages, the numbers for those three
It will
budgets
change. Okay,
change. Would you
so-
like to hear what those numbers are?
Yes, because I'd like to change those to that. I got this off the paper, I'm sorry.
Ms. Woodruff, the general fund number would change from 397,950,668 to 403,656,770.
770.
The other
okay.
two numbers would remain the same. Child
Okay.
nutrition of the 26,360,000 and the debt service of 50,653,421.
Thank you. Can I amend my motion, please?
Legal? She wants to amend her motion.
Mr. Safi, does you have to read it all over again?
No, the intent is to amend the motion to change the amount of the general fund budget amount to $403,656,770.
Yes, sir.
That's the number, Mr. Solis, that you read?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then I think that it would be considered a friendly amendment. It wouldn't be necessary to restate the whole motion as long as it's the second is the person that seconded, the trustee that seconded is agreeable to that amendment.
That's Mr. Haggerty.
He still agrees, so Shane's, Mr.
Then I
Haggerty
think,
seconds, so it's time to vote.
I agree. Subject to any further discussion by the board, the motion is properly before it for consideration.
Say what?
I think the board
It's
can
kind of hard
proceed.
to hear up here.
I think the board can proceed based on that
Okay.
motion as amended.
All right, the motion has been made, has been second, has been clarified. Please cast your electronic votes. All votes have been cast. Results are 5 in favor, 1 opposed, no vote. Motion carries. At this time, before we proceed, I think we need a break.
I do too.
So
Thank you.
let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll resume after that. Thank you. with our board meeting. Next on the list is our consent items. The order of the agenda has been approved. May I have an electronic motion on the consent agenda items listed on the agenda as recommended by administration? Ms. Woodruff.
Mr. Ochoa, I move that we approve the consent agenda items listed on this agenda as recommended by administration.
We have a second by Mr. Bustillos. Please cast your electronic votes. All votes have been cast. The results are 6 in favor, none opposed. All right, let's see. Next is our policy action items. May I have there was one policy item that was pulled, but may I have an electronic motion on the remaining policy agenda items listed on the agenda as recommended by the administration?
President Ochoa, I have two items that were pulled, the BDAA, which is number 1, and number 4, 3715, both by Shane Haggerty.
Number 4?
Oh, the food one.
Who pulled that one? I don't remember, it's been so long.
I guess,
Did you pull
did
that
you
one?
pull that,
I'd asked for
Mr.
it
Haggerty?
originally.
Number 1 and number 4?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But I was talking to Ms. Austin, and I think my questions are answered on number 4.
Okay, so I wasn't aware of number 4. So number
So
1 and number 4?
are we pulling number 4 or not?
No, I don't need to anymore.
It wasn't part of the consent, so we're going to have to
Vote on it
On
anyway.
on the policy? No, we haven't done the policy yet.
Well, that's where we're starting.
Right, so
we'll do 1 and 4.
you just want to pull
It's
number...
already been pulled. I've already pulled
I
it
see.
during the
All
workshop.
right, she's already pulled it, never mind.
So we pulled number 1 and number 4, okay? So we're going to vote on the remaining items.
Can I can't recommend to vote as is.
One more.
Okay, what we're voting on is the remaining policy items, okay? And that's, may I have an electronic motion on the remaining policy agenda items listed in this agenda as recommended by this administration, with number 1 and number 4 have been pulled? Ms. Woodruff.
Mr. Ochoa, I move that we approve the remaining policy items on the agenda.
Huh?
I move that we approve the remaining policy items.
That was
on the
short.
agenda.
Okay, so I have a second. Please cast your electronic votes. All votes have been cast. The results are 6 in favor, none opposed. All right. Now we'll move to the policy items that were pulled. Policy item number 1, revision of BDA local officers and officials, duties and requirements of board officers. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
I had a few issues with this being on the agenda, mostly because the document was approved on October 19, 2022, and the document said to remove term limits. But watching the workshop, if you go to the, I guess that 3rd hour, 30th minute where we start talking about this particular item, there wasn't anyone on the board who came out and said they were for it. That they said, yeah, we want this on there. The moderator kept saying, oh, this should be a good idea. You should put this on there. But even Dr. De La Torre in the workshop said, where is it? I wrote it down. Of course, it's the one that's hiding. We'll put a question mark on it and we'll come back to it. And we never did. So there wasn't a consensus to have it on the board operating procedures to begin with. I think the there was discussion back and forth, good and bad. We talked about how previous boards that tried to have, to get rid of term limits weren't the type of board members you want to have, not have term limits. So I just don't see why we're approving it when it was approved and it's even already been updated on the website as if it's already been done. It had to be updated last week sometime. So why is it on there? And then why are we voting to approve something that we never even had consensus to put on to begin with?
Okay. Any further discussion? Have a motion?
I'd like to, on the agenda, accept as is on that. On the motion.
No, you have to read the
Oh, the policy. Where am I? Which one? Accept that as is. Revision of DBA local officers and officials' duties and requirements of the board officers. Recommended by administration, approved by Ysleta. Specific revisions of policy BDAA, officers and officials' duties, requirements on board officers, as shown in the board backup.
Trustee
Oh,
Bustillos,
yeah.
you can move.
And then just move it, right?
Okay, we had a motion by Mr. Bustillos. We have a second by Ms. Connie Woodruff. Please cast your votes. Votes have been cast. The results are 4 in favor, 2 opposed. Policy passes. We have policy number 4, revision of policy CO local food and nutritional management. Is there any discussion?
So my original question was on the 3 meals, because knowing my son, he'll eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then forget to tell me for 2 or 3 days, and by then he's eating that cheese sandwich, or at least what used to be a cheese sandwich. And speaking with Ms. Austin, breakfast is free in the classroom, and I forgot about that. So more than likely it would be 3 lunches, meaning 3 days worth of food. So it's really not a change other than the language. So I don't have an issue with the way it's written.
So is there a motion or any further discussion?
I move to approve revision to policy CO local food and nutritional management as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Haggerty, second by Ms. Woodruff. Please cast your electronic votes. All votes have been cast. Votes are in, 6 in favor, none opposed. The policy is approved. Okay. Now we move on to the action items. Number 1, approved award of solicitation BP 1916 Bel Air High School baseball field renovations. Is there any discussion? No further discussion. May I have a motion? Ms.
Mr.
Woodruff.
Ochoa,
Yes.
I move to approve award of YISD solicitation BP 1916 Bel Air High School baseball field renovations with Baines General Contractors, Inc. for the amount of $3,687,800 contingent upon final negotiations, in-house council review, and Form 1295 certificate of interested parties.
Okay, we have a second by Mr. Haggerty. Please cast your electronic votes. All votes have been cast. Results are 6 in favor, none opposed. Action item number 2, YISD contract number 202-30205, interlocal agreement with El Paso County Juvenile Board of Juvenile Justice Alternative Education Program. Is there any discussion? No further discussion. May I have a motion? Mr. Bustillos.
President Ochoa, I move to approve YSD Contract 202-30205, interlock agreement with El Paso County Juvenile Board, including all listing exhibits incorporated by reference for operation of Juvenile Justice Alternative Education Program, JJAEP, at Cesar Chavez Academy, including other districts in Region 19 from August 1st of 2023 to July 31st of 2024, with automatic renewal for a maximum of 2 years, subject to approval by Juvenile Board.
Okay, we have a second by Ms. Woodruff. Please cast your electronic votes. All votes have been cast. Results are 6 in favor, none opposed. Okay, now we move on to the election of board officers. We will now elect board officers, and newly elected officers will take their position at the next meeting of the board. We have Mr. Shane Haggerty and Cruz Ochoa interested in the position of president. Are there any other nominations or self-nominations? If not, unless there's any objection, as president, I propose that we use a non-secret paper ballot for voting. Any trustee can vote for any nominee, including himself or herself. After the ballots are collected, Ms. Mathewson will read the ballot cast by each trustee. If there is a majority vote, I will declare that person elected. If there is no majority, balloting will be repeated for that office until there is a majority for a single person. Is there any objection? Hearing none, we will proceed as proposed.
Can I get another one of this stuff? I wrote on the wrong lines.
Here's your pen.
Ms. Mathewson, would you please read the ballots?
Yes, President Ochoa. For Board President, Connie Woodruff, nominee, who she is voting for is Cruz Ochoa. again for president. Shane voted for Shane for president. Chris Hernandez is voting for Shane Haggerty for president. Cruz Ochoa is voting for Cruz Ochoa for president. Mike Dwyer is voting for Cruz Ochoa for president. And Carlos Bustillos is voting for Cruz Ochoa for president.
There is a majority vote for Cruz Ochoa for president. I declare Cruz Ochoa as elected as president of the board. Thank you. We shall now proceed for the rest of the election of board officers. We have Charlie Bustillos interested in the position of vice president. Is there any other nomination or self-nomination for this position? If not, without objection, we'll do this by voice vote instead of electronically. Do I have a motion on this matter?
Mr. President, I move to elect Carlos Bustillos as vice president.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Mr. Hernandez, second. Trustee Haggerty, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Hernandez, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Bustillos, how do you vote?
Yay.
Trustee Dwyer, how do you vote?
Yay.
Trustee Woodruff, how do you vote?
Yay.
And I, Trustee Ochoa, vote yay. The motion passes 6-0. Congratulations. Now moving on to secretary. We have Catherine Lucero interested in the position of secretary. Is there any other motion? Is there any other nomination or self-nomination for this position?
She's coming in.
Whoa!
Hi.
Wait, were you waiting out there in the hall? Or what?
I just drove in from Dallas. I didn't want to look like this. I apologize. I wanted to be here for the
Turn on your
budget
phone. Turn on your.
vote.
Okay.
You want to take a second? Look what? Okay. All right. We have Catherine Lucero interested in the position of secretary. Is there any other nomination or self-nomination for this position? If not, without objection, we'll do this by voice vote instead of electronically. Do I have a motion on this matter?
President Ochoa, I move to elect Catherine Lucero as secretary.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bustillos. Do we have a second?
I second.
Mr. Dwyer seconds. Trustee Haggerty, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Hernandez, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Bustillos?
Yes.
Trustee Dwyer?
Yes.
Trustee Woodruff?
Yes.
Trustee Lucero?
Yes.
She said yes.
Trustee Ochoa, I vote yes. The motion passes 7-0. Congratulations. Do we have to call a break for this, Monica?
Just a brief break, recess, and then we go into the PFC.
Yeah. Right here.
What'd she say? Go on. We can do a recess? Okay, we're going to recess and then proceed to our special meeting of the, call a recess now? No.
Can we just go into it?
And then we want to go back into the speaking. It's already 9:11.
Can we just go into it?
You've already gone through a recess, so we can just go into.
Okay, I just want to make sure. All right, special meeting of the YISD Public Facility Corporation, PFC. I call the YISD Public Facility Corporation Board of Directors to order with the following directors present: Mr. Shane Haggerty, Mr. Chris Hernandez, Mr. Charlie Bustillos, Mr. Mike Dwyer, Mrs. Connie Woodruff, Ms. Catherine Lucero, myself, Cruz Ochoa. Action item, elect officers for the YSD Public Facility Corporation, PFC Board of Directors. Is there any discussion? If no further discussion, may I have a motion? Ms. Woodruff.
Mr. Ochoa, I move to approve as elected officers of the Ysleta Independent School District Public Facility Corporation Board, the same persons elected to serve as officers of the Board of Trustees of the Ysleta Independent School District.
We have a second by Mr. Haggerty. Please cast all your electronic votes. All votes have been cast. The results are 7 in favor, none opposed. If there's no further discussion, I adjourn the PFC meeting and reconvene the Canvas Workshop regular and PFC meeting of the Board of Trustees at 9:13 p.m. We have a special board meeting on Wednesday, June 28, 2023 at 6 p.m. here in the Ysleta room. Is there any discussion on this? If not, if no further discussion, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Adjourn.